Hello and welcome back. My name is Vanessa and I'm a full stack engineer working here in Sweden. I get asked often, what is it like to work in Sweden as a software engineer? So I wanted to jump into some of those topics today. I would say the overall vibe of working in Sweden is that you're treated with respect and you're treated as an adult. I think Spotify said it best. Sweden's work culture is one of a flat hierarchy, so they expect everyone to share their thoughts and ideas because it is very important that everyone be heard no matter their experience level. What I've noticed is this flat hierarchy creates a sense of trust and unity between developers and management. For me, when I'm in meetings, I feel that I am able to express myself, even if those thoughts and opinions are more negative and maybe go against what, say, the product owner says. It's still very much encouraged to explain my point of view and not feel that if I say something that goes against what others are saying, that I will be penalized or there will be some negative consequences for me kind of saying what I think. One thing that I really appreciate is every time my manager is in a meeting, there is no power dynamic. It's just two people doing their jobs in the same team. Another reflection that I have about the work culture here in Sweden is employees appreciate when you have a different skill set, background, and experience. In my own experience, since living here in Sweden, I switched careers. What I noticed was when I was applying for jobs and interviewing with people, employers really appreciated that I have a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in business. I would say here in Sweden, there is a bigger emphasis on being more of a generalist and knowing kind of different things so that you can bring that perspective and that knowledge into the company. The employers that I have interviewed with really appreciated that my background was outside of computer science. And this also leads me to something else that I've experienced is it's really encouraged to expand your knowledge and your skill set in Sweden. The culture really supports it and employers support it. Actually, earlier this year, I was collaborating with an embedded developer and a cloud developer, and I explained to my manager that I really thought it would benefit me if I knew more of the hardware side. So not that I wanted to become an embedded developer, but I wanted to understand the entire architectural flow because I felt that it would allow me to be a better full stack engineer and help my two colleagues in accomplishing what we were trying to make happen, basically. I just basically explained to my manager that I would like to be more involved with the hardware meetings and discussions. And so if that was okay with her, that would be the reason why she would see me in some of those meetings. She completely understood and agreed that that would be best for not only myself, but my colleagues and the success of the product. And so it was completely supported. At my company, it is also very much encouraged to do a personal enhancement program, which essentially allows you to be loaned out to another team where you can work in that team and learn kind of that team's way of working, the product that they work on, and learn different skills. Overall, working in Sweden, you have a lot of autonomy and ownership of your work. It's very much encouraged that the team and you as an individual shape the way that you want to work. My team regularly has retrospectives, and I know that a lot of software engineering teams do. But I think the difference is when you work in Sweden, you have this sense of unity that I was speaking about earlier. So you feel comfortable in really outlining what needs to be improved. And so my manager sits in on every retrospective that we have, and it is she who takes these action points at the end of the meeting and ensures that our feedback is heard and that we try to improve our way of working. I don't think my team would have this continuous improvement that we have if the work culture did not support it. One thing you will not find in Sweden is hustle culture. So while we have a lot of successful companies here and we have a lot of hardworking and ambitious people, the companies here do not expect people to work at the detriment of their own health. Employers here understand that work is just one part of your life and your job does not have to be your entire identity. Employers also understand that if an employee is relaxed, has good sleep, is able to enjoy hobbies outside of work, and is able to commit to their family responsibilities, then when they do come into work, they will be much more motivated and in a happy mood and able to contribute and do a good job when they are at work. One thing that was quite surprising to me was in one of my one-on-ones, my manager asked if the workload was manageable. That was just kind of shocking to me because it's just never a question I've been asked before by a manager. It was important to her and is important to all managers that employees feel that their workload is maintainable and not overwhelming. Companies here offer free fruit, coffee, and tea. It's also not uncommon for companies to allow you to bring your pets to the office. So it's very common to see a colleague's dog sitting next to your desk or roaming around the office. Fika is also sacred in this country. So it is very common to have a fika in the morning or a fika in the afternoon or both, because let's face it, Swedes are fueled by coffee. Fika is usually 10 to 15 minutes where you just sit and talk with your colleagues over a nice warm cup of coffee. This time is usually used to talk about anything other than work. There are some teams who have made it mandatory that they do not discuss work, but then there is also the opportunity to discuss with your colleagues if you are having a problem. So while other companies have a return to office policy, especially now in the US, there's a lot of major corporations telling everyone they have to come back to the office. That is just not a thing here in Sweden. We have maintained our hybrid and our remote first. There's actually a lot of startups now who are completely remote first. I myself am only required in the office 1 day a week. For the rest of the week, I work from home. I would say those are some of the biggest differences I see between the American and the Swedish work culture. So while I enjoy my job and I enjoy being a software engineer, I also really appreciate that when I go into work, people don't just know me as Vanessa, the full stack engineer. They also know more about my hobbies and my life outside of work and what I enjoy doing, like who I am as a person, because the culture supports getting to know me beyond just who I am at work. One thing that I feel like does not get discussed enough is the safety in taking risks and starting a company in Sweden. Stockholm is often called the unicorn factory. We have more established startups like Klarna and Sauna Labs, but also newer startups such as Wingbits, who is decentralizing aviation data. So the reason I say that there is safety in taking risks in Sweden is because, as you know, Sweden is a socialist country. In Sweden, your healthcare, your housing, your insurance, all of these things are not tied to your employment. We have free healthcare, and for insurances that you do want to purchase, the majority of them are very reasonably priced. And so while so many things are covered, it makes it a lot easier if you decide to start your own company because you don't run as big of a risk of going into financial debt. One of the biggest benefits that Sweden offers is what's called a leave of absence. So if someone living in Sweden wanted to try out creating their own company, they didn't want to quit their job, they could take a leave of absence and they would be guaranteed their role or a similar role in the company if they decided to come back. Of course, the employer must approve this leave of absence, but as I mentioned earlier, it's very encouraged here to expand your knowledge and try out things. So employers are very encouraging for people to take a leave of absence, not only to start their own company, but for backpacking across Europe or going back to university. This leave of absence provides you a way to try to start your own company if you have an idea as a software engineer, but not feel that you are going to lose everything if it were for some reason to fail. Stockholm has everything to offer, from exciting startups and growing scale-ups to established enterprises. So while Spotify is our poster child, we also have many other great companies such as Epidemic Sound, H&M, Scania, Google, Microsoft, and the list goes on. So if you prefer a certain size company to work at, you will find companies of all shapes and sizes here in Stockholm, and these teams are always hiring. Since Stockholm is such a big tech hub, you are going to meet people from all over the world. On any given day, when I'm walking down the street or riding the metro, I hear languages from all over the world. I have also made friends with my colleagues who are from all over, from Hong Kong to South Korea to Iran. Actually, when I think about it, all of the engineers on my team have immigrated to Sweden, so none of us are originally from here. For me personally, I absolutely love working with people from all over the world. So I know some of you may be wondering, do you need to learn Swedish to be able to work in the tech industry in Sweden? And the answer is no. So while learning Swedish may open more opportunities for you and allow you to integrate more into the culture, it is not a requirement to work because the majority of tech companies, especially in Stockholm, they do business in English. I will now share my experience with work-life balance as a software engineer in Sweden. As I previously mentioned, I can really sum it up by just saying that you are treated like an adult, and not only an adult that has a life outside of work. In a typical work day, I kind of have the freedom to start the day kind of when I choose, but within reason. So a typical day can start from 6 to 9 a.m. If I want to go to the gym at lunch, that is perfectly okay. If I need to be away during the day, the only expectation is that I let my team know and let them know kind of approximately when I will be back, and then kind of finish up my work when I get back. You know, there is trust that when I get back from whatever it is I'm doing, that I will make up the time and do whatever needs to be done in the afternoon. I remember the first time I got sick in Sweden, and I asked a colleague, do I need to use a sick day? And they just kind of looked at me like, what? And so I said, do I use a sick day for when I'm sick, or do I use a vacation day? And they were like, so confused. And so I'm like, I'm sick. What do I need to do? And they were like, you're just sick. Like, there's nothing special that you need to do. When you're sick, you're just sick and you stay home because your colleagues do not want you getting them sick. In Sweden, when you're sick, you just notify your team and then you take the day off. There's no questions asked and there's no requirements for a doctor's note. On the first day, you are not paid, but on the days after that, you are paid at 80%. And if it becomes a more chronic thing, then you do need a doctor's note because then essentially the government gets involved to help pay for your at-home stay. You would never use a vacation day here in Sweden if you are sick, and you would never hear of colleagues gathering their paid time off to donate to another employee who is sick. Sweden has an annual leave or vacation for all employees working in Sweden for 5 weeks or 25 days. If you choose not to take vacation, you can roll over those vacation days to the next year. You can also be paid out for the vacation time that you don't use. But if you are paid out, that is taxed. So the government really encourages employees to take vacation. While companies here do not offer unlimited paid time off, as some companies do in the US, the difference here is that everyone is entitled to vacation, and by law, you must take vacation. As you may have guessed, I personally really like this. I know companies in the US say their unlimited paid time off is like a huge perk of working at the company, but then there is never an opportunity for employees to actually use this unlimited PTO. And not only that, if you do, then you're kind of looked down and you're not considered hardworking and that you're hurting the team or the company. And you also need your manager to approve it. So while we don't have unlimited paid time off, what some companies do here is increase the number of weeks that you have paid vacation. So as you become more senior here in Sweden, you can have 6 or more paid vacation weeks. As a parent working in Sweden, you will be eligible for maternity and paternity leave and also for VAB. VAB is for when your child is sick, so you use a VAB day so that you can stay home and care for them. You will be paid 80% of your salary when you use a VAB day. I know that there are many benefits of being a working parent in Sweden, but I don't think I'm the best source of information for that as I am child-free by choice. However, I can say that a lot of my colleagues have children and I have seen kind of their experience. And one thing I notice is, again, employees who have children are just treated like adults. Often my colleagues will need to leave around a certain time in the afternoon to go pick up their children, and that's perfectly fine and accepted because employers understand that you have responsibilities outside of your job. And again, the expectation is that after they pick up their child and they go home, they will continue their work or what needs to be done at home. For me personally, while I'm not a parent, I do have 2 cats, and one cat specifically this year needed to go to the vet several times, and it was never an issue. So although my cats are not human children, I was still treated the same as other people who have children, in that I needed to leave to go pick my cat up from the vet or take her to the vet, and it was perfectly fine, and I didn't need to prove anything or be questioned. I was trusted that I would finish my work when I was home. What I noticed was when I switched careers and I was interviewing for my current role, I realized how much it benefited me to be a female software engineer. In Sweden, like in most places, there are not a lot of female engineers, but I would say the difference is in Sweden, they encourage and want to hire female employees and specifically female engineers. When I was interviewed for my current role, my manager asked that she was able to interview all of the available female engineering candidates first. I was one of 4 engineers that she interviewed with in the same day. And I want to be clear that if she felt she had not found the right person, then she would have interviewed more people and it wouldn't have been so gender specific. But because she interviewed me and she felt that I would have been a really good candidate for the team, she did select me. For her and the team and the company, it was very important to have a diverse workforce. And so it was very important for them to look for female candidates. So many companies here in Sweden want to recruit females for the tech industry. We just need more women in tech. I really enjoy working in Sweden and working in the work culture and having access to everything that the government provides. While everything that I mentioned in this video is positive about the work culture and working in Sweden in general, there are some negatives and some downsides, but I plan to do a separate video to really give a balanced perspective on what it's like working in Sweden. If you are planning to move to Sweden, leave a comment down below and I will see you in the next one.